And welcome back, to another episode of The GOAT, where we talk to goats, about goats, what it takes to be a goat, who's a goat, what's a goat. D, how are you doing today?
I am amazing, but Jeff, I have to be honest and real with our audience. I totally heard you practice your intro, and you did a phenomenal job, so I wanted to give you credit. He had different pitches. He was going up and down, in and out with his voice. That was really, really good. That's awesome.
See, tell everybody we're in separate rooms in the same office, and I'm practicing over here, and you're listening.
That's awesome.
Hey, if you're gonna be a goat, you gotta put in the work, dude.
Exactly.
You know, and I was putting in the work.
And I wanted to give you respect.
I wanted to talk a little bit about last week's guest, talking about a mental giant, dude. Tony Hoffman, who runs these 100-mile races in high altitudes and does marathons. And it's like, he is an incredible man. But what I learned last week was what it takes to go when you hit the wall. When you run into that wall, what's it take to get through that? The grit, the mindset. Because I tell you what, I've been there, man, and I stopped. I hit the wall. It's like, oh, shit, this isn't worth it.
Yeah, what is the end result that I'm chasing? Yeah, that's not
right. It's like, I'm tired, man.
But running was never my forte either. Give me a ball.
Yeah. And the runners are in their head so much and they're thinking and all that. It's a great sport. But boy, the thoughts that you have, my guess, when you're running 100 miles and you get into like 70 or 80, and it's like, I can't even imagine.
No.
And it's a totally different feeling than who we're going to talk to today.
Very real.
Yeah. This is
hitting the face is a little different than your legs being jello.
Exactly. It's like you run, the pain is different. It's like, but it's all pain. And it's like you're stepping into the ring and you are knowing you're going to get hit in the face. You're going to be tested. You're going to have to go the distance or go to where your body's dying.
Extreme. Yep.
I can't wait to talk to him. Let me tell you a little bit about Cam Awesome, our guest. He is a champion heavyweight boxer, former captain of the USA national boxing team. He's 6-time U.S. national champion, 4-time Golden Globe national champion, 3-time Olympic trial champion. And there's so much more that I can tell you about Cam, but I want to bring him on, introduce him, and have him tell his story. So welcome, Cam.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you here, bud.
Yeah.
So the first question, Cam, that I have is, the first thing that I read was you didn't start boxing until you were a senior in high school.
Yeah. I started pretty late in the game, but if you put that much time in, you can catch up pretty quickly.
Oh man, that's unreal, because I know kids that start at 4 or 5 years old and they're out there boxing and training and they go into those fights when they're little kids. I can't imagine starting so late in the game and competing with people that are good.
Yeah. It was a learning curve, but I never played a sport until I started boxing. Like, I got cut off the football and basketball team every time I tried in middle school, and I did try in 9th grade. And then after it didn't work out in 9th grade, I was like, all right, I don't want to be a 10th grader who's a freshman starting for the first time. So so I didn't start a sport until pretty late.
Right.
Was this like a Rocky Balboa story where you're a club bouncer and beating up people is kind of what you did, but you had to learn the techniques?
No. I was just an overweight kid who wanted a prom date. And I figured if I lost weight, I would get one. And the only free gym in my neighborhood was also the only gym I could afford, which happened to be a boxing gym. So
wow.
When I first originally made it to the gym, my goal wasn't to hit anyone or be hit. I just wanted to be a boxing fitness guy. I wanted to jump the rope. I wanted to hit the bags. But I had no interest in being hit. So
wow.
So what I did, because the coach wasn't interested in me as a fighter, I was just the kid who was just to jump rope and stuff. No one taught me how to box, so I had to teach myself.
Okay. Wow.
So what I did was I just watched what other boxers did. I tried to figure out what the reason was for it, and if I couldn't find the reason, then I deemed it to be stupid. So the first thing I did was I noticed guys that hit the heavy bag, but they would punch it not eye level. They would punch it to like where someone's belly button would be, and I realized they're only doing that because they're being lazy and they're training for bad habits. So one of the first things I did is anytime I hit the heavy bag, I walk up and I touch my face on the bag. Now, the fact that I'm about to hit the heavy bag means I'm already warmed up. The fact that I'm warmed up means I'm sweating. When I touch my head to the bag, I know that sweat stain is the level I should be hitting.
Oh, yeah.
So now that's one thing I learned. A thing I learned not to do was I walked into the gym, and a lot of people would disagree with me to this day, but I saw them hitting the speed bag. And for weeks, I was trying to figure out what is the benefit of it. And I couldn't figure it out. Even though I learned how to hit it because it's cool, there was really no benefit to it. And when I figured out what the problem was, I told the coach, I was like, hey, what's this for? And he was like, hand-eye coordination. And I was like, I strongly disagree. And of course, coaches are like, well, we always done it like this. I was like, well, how's this hand-eye coordination? And he tried to explain. And then I was like, you can't even hit the bag real well. He's like, I can hit the bag. I was like, hit it with your eyes closed. Brr, 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 brr. Well, then if you can hit it with your eyes closed, it's not hand-eye coordination, is it? So I just stopped hitting the speed bag, and I always deemed it as being silly. Now, if you want to develop hand-eye coordination, take 3 tennis balls and juggle them. Once that becomes easy to you, juggle them off of a wall.
Right.
And the benefit to that is you're not making a bunch of noise while I'm in the gym because I hate the sound of the speed bag. I'm trying to listen to my music.
That's very, very, because when you think about the thing that's probably sold the most to the lay person on boxing is the speed bag.
Yeah, and the big bag, yeah.
Techniques, all that.
Yeah, literally, there's no benefit. Granted, there are champions who have hit the speed bag, but there are also champions who've done heroin. We don't need to do everything that champions do.
Right. That's a good point. Because there's a lot of unhealthy champions.
Yeah.
So when did you start taking it serious, Cam? Like you were in there going, I don't want to get hit, leave me alone. All of a sudden, dude, you're fighting at some point.
Yeah, so my goal for a year, I just like worked out and I just did the boxing training part of it, the cardio and all that. And then one day after I was in better shape than most people in the gym, the coach was like, hey, do you ever want to spar? And I was like, oh, my mom's not going to let me. And everyone laughed. And I was like, I'm joking. Of course I'll spar. Yeah. And that's how I got into it.
You were shamed into boxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
The U.S. champion heavyweight national fighter was shamed into boxing.
Yeah. Yeah. But what happened was I was able to spar, but because I was so afraid to be hit, instead people would think boxing's hit and don't be hit. My philosophy was don't be hit, then hit. So I worked heavily on defense. And because no one ever taught me the fundamentals of how to box, I often quote the great Kenny Powers, and I say fundamentals are tools for crutches for the talentless. Fundamentals are crutches for the talentless. So if you watch me, I don't fight like a normal boxer. It's because I taught myself how to box. Right. And I realized if I can just fight heavier guys, like fight heavyweights, fight guys that are bigger than me, and just be in better shape than they are, if I don't get hit, because if I get hit, they'll kill me. If I don't get hit, I can win.
Right.
So I took that approach to it.
And it worked.
Yeah, it's not exciting by any means. I know people like knockouts, and I don't knock a lot of people out, but I also don't get knocked out.
And you win.
Most importantly, I win.
And that's the purpose of going out there, is figuring out how do I bring my best game to the table, whether it's pretty or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah. You asked the question, when did I take it seriously?
Yeah.
Some would say I never have.
Okay.
Because boxing has never been my goal. I got into boxing. I realized that I can use boxing and leverage it to build a career for myself because I didn't want to go to college.
Right.
And I figured if I won enough in boxing, I would have enough travel, enough life experience, enough worldly knowledge that I can leverage my boxing ability to be at least a master's degree, whatever door a master's degree can open. I feel
Right.
like I've won enough in boxing to have a PhD. So,
Right. So how are you leveraging that?
so I'll start in the very beginning. When I first won my first nationals in 2008, I moved out to Kansas City, and my coach, he owned the boxing equipment company Ringside at the time. His name is John Brown. He had this philosophy that has changed my life. He said that everyone should be responsible for giving two things, one of two things, never both. You give either your time or you give your money. So no matter what, you need to serve. You either serve with your time, you serve with your money. And he was a business owner, successful. He had all the money in the world, but he didn't have enough time. He knew that I was an 18-year-old kid. I didn't have much money, but I had a lot of time. So he coached me, and in exchange, I would travel to all the high schools and middle schools, talk about my experience with boxing, how it got my life to change, and how they can join our free nonprofit gym, because we have a gym here in Kansas that's free.
Oh,
So
great.
this was something that I enjoyed doing. So I enjoyed speaking at the schools. And at first I would have to lug all this boxing equipment in and talk about boxing. But then I realized if I can speak for 45 minutes, I don't need to carry all the gloves in. And I realized the more engaging my talk was and the more funny it was, the more people listened.
Right.
And I also picked up doing stand-up comedy back in 2012. So I got a lot of stage experience doing that. Was able to travel the country speaking at, performing at comedy clubs. So I took a lot of that into my message to speaking to the kids as well.
Beautiful.
Now, I won nationals in 2008, 9, 10, and 2011. In 2012, I won the Olympic trials to represent USA in the London Olympics. And I became not the third, not the second, but the first boxer in United States history to be suspended and kicked off the Olympic team for not filling out paperwork. So this was by USADA, United States Anti-Doping Agency. And although I left the country, so what happened was I left the country to go to Azerbaijan. It's a country over by Armenia. And you have to get drug tested to fight in the tournament. And I was drug tested. I passed the drug test. But I forgot to tell the drug testing agency I was leaving America. So they showed up to give me a random drug test in Kansas City. And I wasn't here. A missed drug test is a positive drug test. I was suspended for a positive drug test. Although there was no suspicion of me ever taking drugs. So that was heartbreaking.
Oh,
That's,
boy.
I was gonna say, tell us more about that. What happened? Like,
Yeah.
man,
What was that like?
First, it was a panic because, I won the Olympic trials. The KC Star did a story on me. Like, I'm in Walmart. People are like, hey, man, you're the boxer, dude. You ready for the Olympics?
Right.
And then I got
Everybody's watching.
Everyone's watching. Then I got suspended, and I didn't tell anyone because I was embarrassed. And then I had to come back to Kansas City, and then they see me in Walmart, like, hey, you're the boxing guy. You ready for the Olympics? And then I have to be like, see, what happened was,
Right.
And immediately people look at you like you're doing steroids, you're doing drugs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I couldn't tell you what they test you for. They don't test you for weed, crack, coke, heroin, meth, Adderall, Ambien, Xanax. They don't test you for any of the things that I know about. It's these weird chemicals. Like one of them's in a Monster Red drink, the Red Monster drink. They're testing for I guess performance enhancing substances, but not fun drugs. And I didn't even do fun drugs. But after I got suspended, I was very depressed, and then I turned to a lot of drinking.
Yeah. And what happened after that? You lost your spot on the team, and you started drinking. What next?
So everything I got from sponsorships, I lost. My house in LA, the car I was driving, chef, maid, all that type of stuff, that was all lost. To the point where I got the hearing was in because I challenged it or appealed it. The hearing was in Denver. After I lost the appeal, my sponsors called me and said, don't even bother coming back here. Let us know where to mail your stuff.
Right.
So, and I had nowhere to live. So I called up a buddy here in Kansas City, like my ride or die. And I'm like, yo, Matt, I need a place to stay. And finally, I eventually got a place, got a small apartment, a little cheap apartment, and just locked myself in my apartment for at least a few months. I didn't want to see people. I was completely embarrassed. And it's like every commercial you see was for the Olympics. It was like everything was reminding you.
Oh God, I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what you were going through, longing to be there, but also feeling like it wasn't fair.
Yeah. And even accepting even if I accepted and I do accept the consequence because it was my job to send that email, but I don't think it was even it wasn't a suspendable offense. It was the fact that Lance Armstrong had just went on Oprah and made the organization look silly.
Oh yeah.
They made an example out of some athletes and I happened to be one.
Right.
But I felt like my hands was tied. I was frustrated. I put all my eggs in that boxing basket, and I was going through it, to say the least, and became a very negative person. I gained about 50, 60 pounds. I got up to about 287 during my worst.
Wow.
And I lost a bet to. So I started personal training because the only thing I could do is do boxing fitness. So I was doing boxing fitness out of the ringside, the boxing company. They have this studio where they take pictures of all their equipment. Well, they just take pictures there. So I asked if I could train people out of there. And they're like, sure, just clean up after you're done. So I at least got to train people during the day, make a little bit of cash. But I was real sad. I was an overweight personal trainer, which is not great branding for yourself.
Right. Not good for business.
No, not the best for business.
Right.
But I lost a bet during that time to one of my clients. He was vegan, and I lost a bet. It was Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley, and I bet on Pacquiao because who would ever bet on Bradley? And Pacquiao lost, so I had to be vegan for 28 days. Now, I didn't know at the time, but the diet also entails sobriety. So this was the first time during my suspension that I was able to be sober, or I had to be sober.
Congratulations.
That opened up my eyes to a lot of things. For one, I didn't realize how big I gotten. I lost 32 pounds in the 28 days. And that's just from, Yeah.
So that was a turnaround point.
That was a turnaround point. And I owe it to Bill and Amy for saving my life. And I owe it to the vegan diet for that 28-day challenge for saving my life as well, because it was like 22 days into it, I'm like, the food's starting to grow on me. And then 27 days in, I was like, oh, it's almost over. I wish I could keep going, because I started losing weight and I started to feel good again. And I was like, well, I guess I can keep going. And I'm still vegan to this day for there's so many reasons why, but one of the reasons is because it saved my life.
Yeah. So Cam, the message is that you've learned a lot of lessons. You've been there. You've seen the boxing world, actually the sports world. You've been in that, and it's like right now. You said, "I want to take my message to kids." What are you doing? What message are you taking to them, and how are you doing that?
So in 2012, after I lost the bet, I lost a bunch of weight, and I realized I wanted to return to boxing. But at this point, I realized boxing took everything I had, because I put everything I had into boxing. I'm not going to make that mistake again. So when I returned to boxing, first thing I did was I symbolically killed off the person I used to be, because I didn't like the negative person I used to be. So I legally changed my name on my half birthday. So on February 16th, we celebrate the birth of Cam F. Awesome. And on August 16th, we mourn the death of Lenroy Thompson. Now, I only did it on my half birthday so I can have 2 birthdays. But I decided I was going to make a move onto to box again for the 2016 Olympics, but I was going to build a speaking business on my way there.
Yeah.
So as I traveled the country for training and sparring and fights, if I went to go fight in Phoenix or Dallas, I would reach out. I would speak to schools in Phoenix. I would speak to schools in Dallas. And I built my brand, and I was leveraging my ability from sports to share my message with the youth.
Yeah.
And I would speak at schools, of course, for the original reasons why I got into boxing, which was bullying. I also spoke on appropriate social media use. I spoke on goal setting. I spoke on resilience. And as of recent, I speak on cultural competence and communication.
So, dude, being a boxer and all, you're probably good at teaching bullies how to bully, aren't you?
Yes, I know exactly how to do it. Once you teach someone how to fight,
right,
they don't want to.
Right, exactly. They don't want to bully anymore because they feel good about themselves, and the reason people want to bully is because they don't feel good about themselves.
Yeah,
and that's awesome. It really is. And that kind of brings us to the GOAT tip a little bit, which is to be awesome.
I like it. I agree.
And I love that you changed your name to Cam Awesome, because in the great big picture of life, you got to believe that yourself.
You really do.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it and you don't buy it, nobody else can. If you're not your biggest fan, you're your biggest critic, always beating yourself up, but you believe in yourself so much, Cam, that you say it in your name.
Oh, yeah. It's a positive affirmation.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to ask, why did you choose that name?
Well, my name, my birth name was Lenroy Cameron Thompson. I was a junior, so not to get me confused with my dad, they called me by my middle name. They should have just called me Junior, but I wasn't there for that. So I would go by Cameron, and I didn't like Cameron. I had everyone call me Cameron because that was a relevant rapper in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then after he fell off, I just started going by Cam. And when I would fight, everyone who knows me personally calls me Cam, but because when you fight, you have to fight under your legal name. I would fight under Lenroy. Everyone would know me as Cam, and when people would look me up on social media after my fight, they would look for Lenroy. And my dad's following started to grow.
Yeah.
Is people sliding my dad's DMs?
That is great. So you made the commitment to Cam Awesome because you believe you're awesome, don't you?
I do, and it's a way to force myself to be positive in any space that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to be negative.
Yeah.
And it's even easier when you're around negative people because misery loves company, but so does positivity.
Right. Right.
The oil and water, though.
So the message, like if I was to say, Cam, you're going into this school, what do you want to leave the kids with? Like what change, what thoughts, what value do you want to bring to these kids?
I want to fill their knapsack with confidence and tools for them to get where they want to go. And my philosophy is, if you can fail without being discouraged, success becomes inevitable. Right. The thing is, I find that people talk about their successes. You can find successful people all over, but those successful people aren't willing to talk about how unsuccessful they are. Right. Because to become successful, you have to have some failures.
Yeah.
But if none of the successful people are talking about their failures, every time someone fails, they automatically think, well, I'll never be successful.
Right. I'm alone.
Yeah.
Nobody else does this.
Yeah.
Until you see that the greatest of all times are the ones that fail the most.
Yes.
It's like it's the only way we get there is to keep learning and get better and learn to take failing almost as a positive. Yeah. And that's so hard to do for people. But if you can get to that point, you're not going to be afraid of trying anything. No. It's like, get out of my way. I'm going to take a shot at this. I'm going to give it my best because I don't care if I fail or not.
Yeah. Also, and I think people need, not even just kids, adults as well, because we're all the same people. Yeah. We're all looking for meaning and purpose. Some of our brains are just older than other people's brains. But I feel like all of us we're best way to put it is I feel like just as a collective, everyone is looking to be on some journey, but they're looking to be reassured that they're on the right path.
Right.
And they're looking at other people and other people's paths. And that thing, it doesn't work that way.
No.
Like you're gonna have to find your own way of success.
And you know what goes along with that, Cam, is connection. And if we feel connected, if you're speaking to kids and they can go, wow, I've been struggling like that. I have had that challenge. And they feel like I can relate to him. That gives them the look where he's at now. Look at what he's doing. He's out helping people. That's a huge contribution if they can relate to you.
Yeah. And I'm also a believer in karmic debt. It's a concept that I've come up with. I haven't nailed it down yet, but everyone talks about karmic. So karma, because everyone thinks about like karma. Oh, you do something bad's going to happen to you. But that's a negative mindset.
Right.
What I think about karmic deposits. So when you do something good, because as the old saying goes, you must give before you receive.
Right.
If you continue to make karmic deposits and you're a good person here, you're a good person there, you're a good person there, you're saving up this whole bank account of and it's growing interest of karmic goodness. And eventually you're going to see that withdrawal. But too often people want to make withdrawals out of their account first and they're going in overdraft because they're not doing enough good things.
I think you couldn't be more right on there, Cam, is the karma deposit. I like that. It's doing good things. There's no way that can't come back to you.
Cam, I had a semi-boxing question. Can you kind of explain your technique of not getting hit, which is defensive? The money Mayweather, you know, what you think about him right now? Because again, he don't want to get hit either.
He is I can say first of all, he's the greatest boxer to ever live, unquestionably. I'm not saying he's the greatest athlete that's ever boxed.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's the greatest sports figure that's ever boxed. He's the greatest boxer that's ever boxed. People box for two reasons. You box for money, you box for belts. Okay. Yeah. He got more money than anyone boxing. He's gotten all of the belts to the point where he started giving the belts back because he didn't feel like paying the sanctioning fee because he said his name is bigger than the belt. Right. That is some G stuff. Now, you go 50-0 in your career, and it's about not getting hit. Yeah, if you say he chose his opponents, sure, you're allowed to choose your opponents when you're a champion. Yeah. He didn't get to choose his opponents to become champion, did he?
Exactly.
And the fact that he's so dedicated to his craft. Now, I did say he's the greatest boxer ever lived. He's not my favorite.
Right.
Not by far. But I knew when he fought Manny Pacquiao. Here's an idea of like for athletes to think of. Manny Pacquiao, he's a politician. He's a boxer. He's an artist. He writes music. He sings. He records music. And Mayweather boxes. So if Mayweather boxes with 100% of his time and Manny Pacquiao boxes with a percentage of his time, who do you think is going to win that fight?
Right.
So that's why I decided not to continue to pursue boxing because there's other things that I wanted to accomplish with my life. And if I'm not going to give 100% to boxing, I'm not going to do it at all because I don't believe in half-assing anything.
Right. Cam, I so much appreciate you being on our show. I absolutely love it. How can people get in touch with you if they want to schedule you to come meet with the school or set something up?
So I started a nonprofit to work with schools. So I'm still working with students with schools because that's my passion project. That's what I enjoy doing. So Awesome Talks is my business. Awesome Acts is my nonprofit. But now I focus my business on speaking to corporations and businesses about diversity and inclusion. So I lead unconscious bias trainings for adults And also I talk to kids about it too on my own time. But you want to look for me, you can find me at camfawesome.com or at camfawesome on all social media platforms, because I'm not big enough for anyone to take my name yet.
Well, soon, dude. That's what we're doing this for, is to get you known, get out there and let people see how awesome you really are.
I love it. Maybe I can get a stalker one day too.
You know what? That's my goal.
Coach D, I think he already got stalkers the way he laughed. He's like, oh, you don't got none yet?
He's got more stalkers than we can count.
No,
Lucky dog.
Ain't none of them. No more drama in my life. Mary J, baby.
MJ.
Well, everybody, I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. And I want to, a couple things is, I want to clamp. Next week, we have a great, awesome guest. And that is, I can't wait to have her.
Do you call all your guests awesome?
Well, yeah, actually. And we're thinking about making it a requirement that we only meet with people that have that in their name.
I love it. I love it.
But Angie Hundley, who has a story of success and overcoming challenges like nobody others. I can't wait to meet with her next week. It's going to be really cool. And she has risen herself and overcome so many things that this is a true story of success. So I can't wait to meet with her. And anybody that is interested or knows of anybody struggling, anybody that's having a tough time right now, that's what we do here at Triumph, is contact us, and we give a free consult, and we just like to see if we can be of service to you. There's no pressure and no expectations, and we can do it virtually. So if you are struggling, give us a call. And thank you all, folks. And Cam, we are so excited and wish you all the luck in your future.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you.